Okay, hello YouTube. Today we're going to be going over the two knights defense that begins after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, knight f6 begins the two knights defense. And more specifically, we're going to be looking at a line called the fried liver attack, which is kind of a scholastic staple food. Basically, this is an opening that gets played a ton on the scholastic level. I know I used to personally really look forward to playing it when I was a kid. I got to sacrifice my knight, I got to play for mate. It was really awesome. So we're going to play knight g5. That's a double attack hitting the f7 square. This is just called the knight attack, and of course the very natural move here for black, and pretty much the only move to defend against this threat, is to play the move pawn to d5. And then we're going to play e takes d5, and a very natural move, but allows the fried liver attack, is the move knight takes d5. Of course, the best move is just to play something like knight a5 and just play this like a gambit with the black pieces. But in this video, we're just going over the fried liver attack. We're going to be taking a look at knight takes d5 and then knight takes f7, beginning the fried liver. So if you like content like this and want to see more of it, hit that subscribe button. Click on your notification icon. So anyways, the fried liver attack. We're sacrificing a knight. Do we have enough compensation? Do we not have enough compensation? Now, when I was a young Scholastic player, we didn't really know the answer to this question. We weren't really sure if we had enough compensation for the material, or if we didn't. We didn't know if black was actually just decisively better because he was up a piece, or if white was decisively better because he had a winning attack. Or if it was just better to play a different move back here and play something like d4 and delay the sacrifice of the knight on f7, so that we could get an even more decisive attack because we would have more development. We didn't know if d4 and knight takes f7 were better moves than each other. We didn't know which one was best. These days we know knight takes f7 is sound. Engines back this up. Engines back up that knight takes f7 is not only completely sound, but with best play should lead to major advantage white, and it's just as good, if not better, than the move pawn to d4. So after knight takes f7, king takes f7, white's play kind of proceeds down a very, very natural path. White should continue with queen f3 check, which is a double attack. We're attacking the knight on d5 and the king on f7, and black's next move is actually not very natural. And this is one of the difficulties of attacking versus defending. It's actually much easier to attack than it is to defend. A lot of times attacking moves are very natural. White is just going to be developing very naturally, and he's going to find very, very natural moves. Just bring a new piece out, attack something. Bring a new piece out, attack something. It's very natural to do that. Black's defensive moves, on the other hand, are not necessarily going to be the world's most natural moves. His pieces are already stepping on each other's toes. He's going to be moving a lot of the same pieces twice. He's not going to be moving necessarily a new piece out on every single turn. These moves are going to be very awkward and very unnatural. So first off, he can't bring his king back. That's critical. He can't play king e8. Bishop takes d5 is decisive. We're threatening mate on f7 and we're threatening the knight. So for instance, if knight d4, queen f7 is mate. Or if bishop d7, queen f7 is mate. So he's going to have to defend that mate threat. He doesn't really have a great move here. This position is just major advantage white. So the king is going to have to come up. He's going to have to play king e6 and defend that knight on d5, because if you're going to have a terrible position, which black does, you might as well be up a piece and pretend like you've got something for it. So here, white's next move is supernatural. We just play knight c3 and we start piling on that knight. We develop a new piece and we're piling on that knight. So now here there's two moves that black can play. He needs to defend that d5 square, so he's basically got two knight moves. He has the knight retreat, which I think for a lot of players is the most natural move. You retreat the knight and you kind of tuck it away where it's nice and safe. You try to kind of create this defensive bubble, and then the objectively a little bit better move is actually to bring your knight out and to play knight on c to b4. Now the two moves that I've highlighted here, bishop to b3 and castle's kingside, these are the two best moves in the position. But I want to state for the record that when I was a kid, they absolutely lied to us about the theory. Now, keep in mind, back then, we didn't have access to great engines. Okay, so we didn't know. But the broad consensus back then is that there were two moves in this position, and that they were either queen e4 or pawn to a3. So queen e4 was to defend the pawn and improve your position theoretically by putting your queen on the e4 square to continue attacking. Yeah, that made a lot of sense. And then the other move was pawn to a3, with the idea of, if you were a more aggressive player and you didn't care about material, that you would allow this sacrifice of the rook on a1, and that somehow this would also lead to a winning position. And, you know, we believed this because we didn't know any better and we didn't have computer preparation. But of course, both of these moves have very serious issues, just to show you, just to give you an example. So if pawn to a3, we're going to have knight c2, we're going to have king d1, knight takes d1, and then apparently after knight takes d5, and we thought we had lots and lots of play here, the move queen h4, found by the engines, is actually really, really strong. This position is slight edge black. White has no advantage anymore. So this is really, really bad. And then the other position that also apparently doesn't work is this super, super slow queen e4. And it just doesn't work because it's super, super slow. After c6, a3, the knight has time to not just retreat, but then retreat again to the c7 square. And now black's position is apparently completely held together and everything is fine. So there are two moves in this position. But they are not queen to e4 or pawn to a3. You've got two really good options available to you here. You've got bishop b3 and you've got castles kingside. And both of those options are supposed to lead to major advantage white. So you can pick either one. So kind of a sample variation here is something like bishop b3, c6, a3, knight back. So now you do have to take on d5 before they have time to coordinate with knight c7. So knight d5, cd5, d4, the point being that they don't have e4 because of queen e4. And then you're going to have plenty of compensation as soon as you take on e5. And you've just got enough play for the material here, nothing special. So like bishop c5, bishop f4, rook f8, castles queenside, and then white would just continue to attack. And white just has a great game. So the other way you can do this, just a sample variation in case you're curious, the other line that's okay is instead of bishop b3, you could just play castles kingside, c6, d4 hits in the middle of the board. So basically you're just ignoring everything. Like king d7 would be a sample move. You could simply play a3, and then anything here is supposed to lead to somewhere between slight edge to decisive advantage white. White's supposed to be doing really good here. And of course, I think this is kind of the more natural type of setup for white. But the idea would be knight c3, ab4 back, takes, and then you would have to find this really cool rook a5, which is just apparently completely winning for white. Rook a5, and your position is decisive. You're threatening rook d5. So now king c7, rook d5, queen f6, queen g3. Something like this, and you're going to continue to have a decisive position. And white's totally winning. You obviously can't take the rook because you're just basically getting killed here. This is, at this point, black's best move is to sacrifice for the rook, because if he does anything else, his king is in a mating attack. So that's kind of the idea. So either castles kingside or bishop to b3 is supposed to be the correct move here. So one of those two. The other move, knight on c to e7, white's play is actually a little bit easier. Basically, you just play pawn to d4. You throw your pawn in the middle of the board. Then they're going to play pawn to c6. And then there's two moves here. Like the computer best is just to take the pawn. D takes e4, e5 is supposed to be like major advantage white, and white's just supposed to have an advantage here. So if you want to play the computer best move, go ahead. I think the easier move is actually the move that we played, even when I was a scholastic player. The easier move is just to develop a piece, just bishop g5. This is also supposed to be major advantage white. It's not as big of an advantage, but it's a much easier position to play. It's very natural. Again, it's just you develop a piece, you attack. You develop a piece, you attack stuff. There's really only two black moves here that get played ever. There's pawn to h6, in which case apparently bishop takes e7 is supposed to be good enough for an advantage, but the computer best move, if you want to play it, is bishop h4 is supposed to be an even bigger advantage. So either one of those moves is supposed to be fine against h6. And then the other move that gets played is e takes d4. This is the move that you're going to see most commonly on the scholastic level, is just e takes d4. And so many games just end after this move. The correct move is, again, just to develop. It seems natural that maybe you should want to play something like knight takes d5 here, but it's actually not correct. You should just castle queenside, bring more pieces into the attack, and after dc3, just bring your other rook into the attack. And after this check, king d7 is kind of forced, you should take on d5. Now, just about everybody is going to throw this check in, just because, I don't know why. It's actually a little better if black hangs on to the check and doesn't play it, but everybody's going to play it, so this is the position we might as well look at. It makes very little difference on the overall assessment. So king b1, and then we're going to have c takes d5. Now, this is a critical moment that does make a difference on the assessment. After you play rook d5, which is the absolute best move, skewering the king and queen, and black is forced to reply with knight takes d5. You have this moment where you have to pick the best move here, and it is really critical. It's the difference between having a decisive position and an equal position. You have to understand why you're better in this position. After you capture this queen, you are going to have a queen, but your opponent's going to have 2 rooks for a queen and 2 bishops for a rook. So on a material level, your opponent isn't going to be doing that bad. So you have to recognize where your real advantage is here in this position. You have the initiative, and none of black's pieces have developed yet. They haven't moved off the back rank. So you want to make sure you keep it that way. So now you have 2 moves here. You have queen takes d5 check, or you have bishop takes queen. So which move should you play first? And the answer to that question is, if you were to play queen takes d5 here, you would have really made a huge mistake. Queen takes d5 is a blunder. I know taking a piece with check, how can this be a blunder? It allows black's pieces to get off the back rank. Black could play bishop d6, and then after bishop d8, rook d8, and black actually has enough development now. Black's position should be considered totally equal. Black is actually okay here. So the correct thing to do is to play bishop takes d8, and white's position is totally decisive. White's position, according to the engine, is above +5. So white is actually doing incredibly good here. White should be completely winning. The whole point is, after king takes d8 and we play queen takes d5, if you were to block with, say, bishop to d7, simply rook d1 would be threatening a mating attack with queen d7. Plus, we'd be winning that bishop, and there'd be no way you could stop it. And if king c7, we're simply going to play rook e8. And we're going to follow that up with queen f7 and rook f8, winning that bishop. And none of black's pieces can move off of the back rank. They just can't get off of the ground. And white is going to have a completely decisive, completely winning position. So that is how you play the fried liver attack with the white pieces. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you learned something new about chess, and I hope you can use some of these ideas in your own games. Thank you very much for watching.